I'm Jeanine, a New Hampshire State Representative and the host of this show, Chattin' with Jeanine. Thanks for tuning in. Today we will be chatting about American history, education, and the efforts of organizations that work to preserve and promote foundational learning. But before I introduce my guest, I want to give you a little background history. In the late 1980s, I was a freelance writer. I wrote a lot about the POW MIA issue, prisoners of war missing in action, and the men who didn't come home from the Vietnam War. Now, at that time, my very first article was published in a magazine called The New American. The years went by, and we moved to New Hampshire in 1998 from California. So it was my first winter here, and at night there was a meeting down in Nashua to meet the editor of that magazine, The New American. Number one, I'm not a night person, and two, winter and night, but I wanted to meet him so badly. I got in the car, drove through the snow to meet John McManus. There was a young man there working with him. This was the winter of 98, 99, named Hal Shurtleff. And that's who my guest is today. So I've known him all these years. Welcome, Hal.
Thank you. I was a young man, too.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. I just
I
turned
remember
67.
he was thirsty, and you were passing him water and trying to be, nonchalant about it.
No, it was funny. It was a funny little story. We had a lot of people there. It was like a full house. And he was coughing a little bit. It was dry in there. It was no snow, but it was very cold out. And I couldn't find a glass, so I had to run to a store across the road, come back, and I wanted to be somebody was being taped, so I wanted to be sort of discreet. And I put it on the podium. He said, "That's water." I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm Irish." I said, "Yes, that's why I got your water." And people thought we rehearsed that. I said, "No, it would have been as funny if we rehearsed it."
So I went down to meet him at the end, and he said, "Oh, I remember the name Nodder." I showed him because I kept them for a lot of years, all the envelopes of people that wrote to me from all around the country about that POW issue. So I made these contacts all over the world, and I've known you since then.
That's right. Yeah.
So Hal, we're both founding members of the Sam Blumenfeld Reading Foundation, and you also run Camp Constitution.
Yes.
So I know that you've spent many years involved in public education outreach, youth programs, and historical instruction through Camp Constitution. You're dedicated to continuing the legacy of Dr. Blumenfeld's work on literacy and educational reform. So today we're going to talk about the mission behind these organizations, the programs they offer, and the way they work to support families, students, and communities. So could you share what originally inspired you to start Camp Constitution?
Well, I was involved with a group that had a national camp program. I think there were like 8 or 9 camps, and I was the Northeast director. And the camp program was canceled kind of arbitrarily. And so some of us got together. I thought, this is just too important to cancel, so let's start our own. And that's what activist types do anyway. I say, hey, we actually had some of our campers, some of our youngsters, hey, Mr. Shurtleff, can we start our own camp? I said, we're working on it, but stay tuned. Yeah. So that became Camp Constitution. We held our first camp in Rindge, New Hampshire in 2009. I think we had about 50 people there, including John McManus. He was there for a day. And from there, we've grown. It was just one camp program, and it sort of like we call mission creep. We ended up having a publishing arm, a YouTube channel, a speakers bureau, and then in 2017, I became a full-time, just doing it part-time. I started doing it full-time. So since 17, I've been doing it full-time. And when you do stuff full-time, you can't just sit on your hands and wait for the summer camp to show up, July to roll around. You got to do stuff. So I've been traveling around the region. I travel as far as northern Maine, Fort Kent, on the Canadian border. I travel as far as Michigan and Texas and Virginia, North Carolina on behalf of Camp Constitution.
And you live in New Hampshire.
Yes, I'm originally from Boston, moved up here.
That's why I gave you that book, Dark Tide.
Dark
That's
Tide,
about
yes.
the molasses.
The Masses flood, yeah. We moved up here in December of 2020. We live in Alton. We love it there, and I'm actually on the budget committee.
There's a nice half marathon there. It's Rolling Hills
really?
around Alton Bay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And if that's the one there's 2 of them out in that direction.
Yeah, well,
one of them has Rolling Hills.
Maybe Wolfboro.
Yeah. And there's one I remember going to Alton Bay for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So and
right now there are planes landing on Alton Bay. this
why are
time of
they-
year. They have an ice runway.
Oh, really?
It's the only one in the lower 48, yeah, and the ice is
didn't know
nice
that.
and thick this year.
Wow.
We're not talking about big, we're talking about small private plane. We're not talking about,
So-
commercial airliners.
I was thinking of,
Yeah.
like a big Boeing.
Yeah, no.
So we've had a lot of mutual friends that have passed away, and I got this book off the bookshelf at
Garrett
my home.
Lear, yeah, the Patriot
American
pastor.
Dynamic Duo.
The other
Morale
gentleman
and
is
Freedom.
alive and well. He's 82 years old. I just
Dr.
spoke.
Kraft, yeah.
Yeah, I just spoke to him before the show.
I don't know if I've ever had Dr. Kraft on my show.
Reverend Kraft, yeah.
But I have had the late Reverend Garrett Lear, that he wrote in this book, "I'm proud of you. Keep up your efforts. You are a modern day founding mother."
That's nice. Yeah, that's a good tribute. Yeah.
And then we've had General Kingsbury.
Bob, he was a colonel.
Colonel Kingsbury.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I promoted him. I promoted
Well,
him
he
to
should have
general.
been a general, but he only made colonel. Yeah.
And he was a state rep for one term. He's been on my show.
Bob was a
few
phenomenal
times.
man. He ran for mayor. He ran for governor. He finally got elected to the New Hampshire House.
Yeah.
When then he got ill and passed away.
First
Yeah.
rifleman in Patton's Third
Yeah.
Army.
And we published his. He wrote a letter to an historian from, I think, in Ohio, Indiana. Just he wanted to know, being a foot soldier, not the geopolitics, but day to day. And we put that in print with his permission, of course. You know.
And there's one picture in the book, and he's standing with me, and it was the first time he was
that's-
on my show.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I know I just went on a tangent and off script, but
That's the
So
best time.
yeah, I know. Yeah, we could talk forever. So let's go back to the core mission of the camp.
Sure.
Did we mention that already?
No, we haven't. Well, our motto is honoring the past, teaching the present, preparing the future. So that's pretty much what our mission is by our motto. And we honor the past by teaching not just young people, but people of all ages, because a lot of people our age and younger don't know a lot of this history. So we have what we like to think some of the top instructors in the country, if not the world, to help teach this. And we are teaching the present, and we're preparing the next generation of people that do what we do, because someone's got to fill our shoes. We're not going to be around forever, right?
Right. I have to throw this in there. It's a quiz. So who was the last person to sign the Declaration of Independence?
He was from New Hampshire. Yeah. In fact, was it Matthew Thornton?
Yes.
Right here from Merrimack.
Right. Yeah, he's buried right here.
When
in
you
Merrimack.
look at it, his signature is on the lower right because they went geographically.
Oh, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
so New Hampshire, when you look at it, you'll see New Hampshire,
John Hancock's-
Massachusetts. Well, John Hancock was the first one. And I understand that first day, July 4th, there was only a couple of signatures. Most of them didn't sign it until a
Later,
few months
right.
later. But Matthew was not at the convention. He was not there
Right.
on July 4th, but he was elected afterwards. And there was no room to head right on the lower right. Yeah.
And I learned that he had gout, so it was very painful for
Yeah.
him, and he had to prop his foot up on
Yeah.
that bumpy road all the way to Philadelphia
That's-
to sign.
yeah.
Yeah. And buried right here in Merrimack, New Hampshire,
Yeah.
across from the Common Man.
Yeah.
So your programs emphasize history, civics, and foundational skills. How do you approach teaching these subjects to young people?
I'm glad you asked that question because we had no, I'm talking about young people. We have teenagers and we have adults. We also have youngsters as young as 4 or 5.
And the young at heart?
And the young at heart too. So how do you teach? In fact, I sent a news release a couple of years ago to a local newspaper, our first day of camp, the Eagle Tribune up in Claremont. And the reporter got hold of me and he said, how do you teach 5-year-olds the Constitution? I said, I'm glad you asked that. So Mrs. Edith Kraft, she's one of our youth
Kraft?
program.
Is she?
She's married.
Dr.
She's
Kraft?
married
Okay.
to this gentleman, Reverend Steve. She wrote a little song. We have 5 rights, the First Amendment, 5 rights. So I had the song, recorded it with the children, and I sent them a link. I said, this is how you teach young people. This way. Make it fun. Dress them up. You're doing midnight ride up Hallway. If you have someone dress up as a colonial guy, we haven't brought any horses to get riding around, but you do things like that to make it fun.
You use a broom. We used to ride horses, our fake horses. when I
Although
was a
we
kid.
do have, that's true. Yeah. Oh, you do have the little toy horses, But we did bring horses to camp one year, but they were for afternoon riding, not to do a midnight ride reenactment.
Yeah. Well, in my day, and maybe yours too, we had the cartoons on Saturday morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock.
The only time he got up early in the morning is to watch the cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, there was little songs, and
Yeah.
you'd memorize the Bill of Rights, and you memorize the parts of the Constitution through that. In
Yeah.
fact, we have a campfire every night at camp, and we had the Constitution song, and we do that, and so it's the preamble,
Right.
and that's how you memorize
We
it.
the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
So my video that I made about the Pine Tree Riot, that's you can show that to Camp Constitution.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah,
So-
because we just celebrated the 250th anniversary a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the pine tree. You see the pine tree flag, and what's the pine tree? I mean, and what happened was that was basically, I call it a polite, obscene gesture to King George III, as you brought out in the video, that the king had that the pine trees within, I think initially it was like 24 inches in diameter. No matter where those trees were on private property, they belonged to the king, and they were used for the masts. And so if you cut one down, you were fined pretty heavily. And it actually went down, King George III came on the throne, and it went down to like 12 inches in diameter. And the people of
Ware,
W-A-R-E, said, we're not complying with this now. And they had some of his agents show up, and they didn't treat him too well. They sent him, they kind of roughed him up a bit.
thrashed him, put him on his horse, and sent him off backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and you find that there's the Uncle Sam house in
Troy? Is it in Troy?
well, that's New York. No,
Okay.
this would be in not New Ipswich, in that area. I don't know why mental block, because I'm friends. Well, he's deceased now, but they have these wide planks of pine planks.
King's boards.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that was basically saying, hey, we're not going to comply either. But the further away you got from where the royal governor sat, the less government there was, Yeah.
Okay, we've used up half the show just chatting away. So we got to get back to, let's talk about the Blumenfeld Foundation. What aspects of Dr. Blumenfeld's literacy or education work do you feel are most important to preserve?
I would say the Alpha Phonics, and we have a copy
I
there.
I brought my copy
No,
as well.
by the way, I wasn't a founding member. I
okay.
became
I
a
thought you
member,
were. I
I think,
am.
at 19 or 18.
Okay.
But I've known Sam. We were close friends. I took him to various events.
He's been a frequent guest on my show before he passed away.
And we inherited his papers and his writings and his books.
Here's
and,
another
and we
one of his
and we
books.
digitized them. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, he gave me his whole spiel about how he thinks Christopher Marlowe
Marlowe,
wrote the works of Shakespeare and they weren't actually written by Shakespeare. So I said, well, Dr. Sam, I love you, but I don't.
He makes a good case. It
He
would be a
makes a
great
good case,
movie.
but I don't know.
And there's a few other pretenders to that too. But yeah. But in the early, Sam was born in New York City, Bronx. His parents were Russian immigrant Jews, although they were not. They were sort of they weren't super hyper religious.
I remember Dr. Sam being a Messianic Jew, so he did.
Well,
believe
that
in-
was later.
Yeah. Okay.
But they observed the holidays. But Sam learned how to read in the government schools in New York City, and he used to say we learned every morning before the day. The principal got on and read the 23rd Psalm. And during World War II, he spent a year. He was March of '45. He saw action too. You think of little Sam? He was a howitzer, artillery guy. And so he said that brought him a lot of solace. So it was in the early 60s, he was the editor of Grosset and Dunlop. He used to edit the Hardy Boy and Nancy Drew books.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And a friend of his, his name, it's funny, Watson, his name was Watson Washburn. He called him Watt. He was an attorney. I did a little research a few years ago. He was a Hall of Fame tennis player. Sam never brought that up. You look him up, you'll say, oh my goodness, this guy was quite the tennis player. But he's formed a reading and reform group, and Sam was asked to be a member of this. And Sam said, why? Reading is easy. You learn the phonics and bingo. He said, you need to read a book by Rudolph Fleisch called Why Johnny Can't Read.
Oh, I remember him talking
And
about
that book basically changed his life. And from then on, he dedicated his life to looking into who's behind what's going on in the government school realm. And so when I first met him, I met him in Windham, New Hampshire, at an event. It was 1989. I think it was early '89. And he had a very distinct voice.
I remember his
It wasn't a big booming voice, but it was an erudite sounding voice. And I remember meeting him, and the first thing he said to me, Before he even said, "What's your name? Where you from?" he said, "Never let your child set foot in a government school." And I say,
Wow.
it's some of the best advice I ever got, which I did take.
You homeschool all your kids?
Oh yeah. And years later, I said, "Sam, I have to let you down." He goes, "What do you mean?" I says, "Well, my daughters dance, and they had a rehearsal. It was in the government school, so they did set foot in it." He said, "Yeah, but that's different."
This is my 20th and final year doing this show. When in the early years, Dr. Sam had been on several times.
Yeah.
And the first time he came on the show, I'm like, oh my gosh, Dr. Samuel Blumenfeld. I had a tablecloth. I had glass pitcher with water. I wanted to look sophisticated. And he said, "Chattin leaves a bad taste in my mouth."
Oh, yeah.
Improper English. And but that was the nature of the show. I wanted it to be very relaxed and not so prim and proper. And I don't always speak proper English. So
You got to pronounce the G on the end, right?
Yeah, there is no G. It's Chattin. So Chattin. But
I suggested you call it rapping with the sister, but you didn't like that one either.
No, well, there was a rep, a former rep. He had a show, and he called it Rapping with the Rep.
Oh yeah.
Frankie Miro. He's passed away too. Another person that's gone. There's so many people that have passed on.
Yeah,
But that's the way it goes. But anyway, we mentioned the camp.
So anyway, the alphaphonics. So Sam learned that the look-say method of reading was where you basically look at the letters as pictures, was causing the reading problem. And he thought, hey, you make a mistake, you try something, hey, you're doing it wrong. And that people would realize, oh, gee, I guess we are. We'll go back to the phonics. And they weren't having it. He actually had to write letters to various principals, mayors of cities. There's on our archives, if you go to our website, campconstitution.net, there's a drop-down, Sam Blumenfeld Archive, and all we need is an email address and a username. You have unlimited access. You'll find a letter he wrote to Cory Booker, who's now a U.S. Senator. At that time, he was mayor of Newark. And he said, "Give me your worst school, and I will turn it around in a year." He made that offer to numerous mayors and governors. And if he got a response, it was basically "thank you, but no thank you." And he said, they don't want to improve. It's too tightly controlled. And so anyway, that's when he got involved with people starting their own private schools originally. He wrote a book, How to Start Your Own Private School. And then the homeschool movement was there's always been a homeschool movement. It just wasn't, mostly if you lived on a lightship, or something like that, lived up in the woods somewhere. But he was able, it sort of became...
Abraham Lincoln was homeschooled.
Yeah,
and self-taught.
Yeah. So I say modern day because Sean wasn't that old. He was born in 1926. But he would attend all of the homeschool conferences around the country, even travel to New Zealand and Australia on behalf of what he was doing, and had a lot of very well received there too. So I think it was in the early 80s, mid-80s, he came up with this alphaphonics, which you have copies of.
Yeah, and this is the same thing, but smaller.
When I show this to people, I'll say, what's missing? It really isn't missing, but there are no pictures. And Sam used to say, you do not need puppets popping out of trash cans to teach people how to read. And I used my wife and I use this for our children, and we homeschool from day one, and they're all great readers. My youngest would be a nurse in a few months. She'll be graduating from Liberty School of Nursing. And so it worked very well. And we have it available on our website free of charge. Now, Hooked on Phonics, good program.
I had that.
Did
I
you?
bought that for my kids.
Yeah, but ours is free.
I'm trying to remember the little tune.
The thing about Hooks on Phonics is that they have a lot of...
apple, that's what it was. B, ball. Yeah, that was Hooked on
a lot of,
Phonics.
yes. And, but they have a lot of, I call bells and whistles, they have a lot of little songs like that, and they'll have flashcards and
I did have flashcards.
You did, and so Sam did create an alphaphonics kit to compete with, because that's what parents thought you needed. They just said, all you need is a book. It can't be that easy. Yeah, yes, it is. You don't need all these bells and whistles.
So how do you teach it? Do you learn the alphabet first and then learn the sound?
No, you learn the sound. He starts with the vowel sound. So in this, there's 128 lessons. And our friend Bill McNally actually brought Sam into a cable TV studio in 09 or 10. And Sam did every single lesson audio. So we have all the video and audio on the website.
I should have done that.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he has a course in cursive. Now, I know you folks just passed a law that says you have to have cursive in schools, but I don't think it has any teeth to the law. And Sam was a stickler, and I agree that you should start cursive first.
If you can't read cursive, you can't read these documents.
Well, you can, but you can't read them that way. Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I can't.
I have an interesting story. So when I inherited his writings, and it was has a lot of personal effects. He published a book back. He had a small publishing arm for a couple of years in the early '60s, and he published a book called Yankee Diva. It was a biography of Lillian Nordica. She was like the Taylor Swift of her day. If it was 1912 and I brought a name up, oh yeah, we know who she is. She was an opera singer, traveled all over the world. And he had some artifacts, some of her notes, some little promotional events, and some of her handwritten things. And her homestead is in Farmington, Maine. There's a museum there. And one of these little stereograph pictures that returned to the homestead. I said, well, that's like 60 years later. I went up there, and they were very well received. Well, the lady running the place said she had some local high school kids volunteering to transcribe her notes into, so they can read it easier. They said, we don't know how to read cursive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
I love phonics. One of my sons, my oldest, I had a hard time with him with phonics, and I finally taught him to read using the Merrill Linguistic Reading Program. For some reason, that worked.
I don't know.
Him.
I know. One of my daughters is now a nurse. She had trouble. She would pronounce every letter like Sam, sa, and it drive me crazy. So I called Sam up, and I said, Sam, I'm about to jump off a ledge here. Talk me off it. And he said, Hal, be patient, she'll get it. Yeah. So it worked fine.
So they learn the vowels first. So
vowels first.
like A, and then you put all the different letters, like
and then you combine them.
Math.
So there's 128 lessons. Some of the lessons are 5 minutes long. It's not like a whole day for each lesson. And I think Hooked on Phonics says that it takes a good month, maybe a month and a half, to be a really proficient reader. And the thing about phonics is that you see a word that you don't know, you sound it out. Mm-hmm. The people that push look-say call it, oh, you're decoding. No.
And then the secret codes, there's little secret codes.
Yeah, but when it comes to look-say, you have to look at every letter. That it's a picture, and then it gets a little tough because there's only so many.
That's how they taught me. In California, I remember just struggling trying to memorize all these words. And
well, I was blessed.
I learned phonics with my kids.
In the second grade, I had trouble with look-say. I mean, I was like low in the class. And they told my mother to teach me how to read. And my mother was born in 1920. All she knew was phonics. And so she taught me phonics. And within, I don't know, a month, I was, not top of the class, but I was at the higher level.
I remember just mispronouncing everything because I didn't know how to say. I didn't know phonics. I didn't know how to sound out words. And my mother would get so mad at me. I'm like, Catherine Dell. What do you mean cathedral?
Cathedral,
yeah, Cathedral, yeah, and Tuscan to Tucson.
I'll never forget, I had a lady come at my information table at a Tunbridge fair, and she says, I like your Palmia flag.
Yes, I've heard people call it Palmia.
I says, what the heck's a Pal? Like, it was an Indian?
P-O-W-M-I-A, prisoner of war missing
she thought that was a word,
I've heard people say that too. It's like, But anyway, I think phonics is a wonderful thing, and it's if we learn how to read, then your education never ends.
The whole world is opened up. Yeah,
right.
Up.
You can self-teach yourself
reading
any topic.
It should be a pleasurable thing, not it's something you have to do. It's something you want to do, not you have to do. How many people, once they leave high school or college, don't pick up a book anymore?
I don't know if you ever read the book Harnessing the Wind. This boy in a village in Africa who he didn't have money to go to school, but he did know how to read, and he would check out books from the library and he taught himself how to build a windmill to harness the wind. So reading is just so important. I think it's the most important skill a person can have because their education never ends.
Well, that little book that you have, Sam actually designed. It's the same exact content as this. And he actually would volunteer in inner city reading program, adult reading program, the Waite House in Roxbury. We are all in this together. And they were a little embarrassed, some of the adults. They didn't want to walk around with something like this. So he said, hey, you can put it in your pocketbook or in your, you can put it here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I don't know if the camera can zoom in on this on our minute and a half that we have left. So you learn a, ah. And then once you learn a, ah, you can learn the other sound.
And the vowels that have two, a long sound and a short sound. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And about 15% of our language is not phonetic, but you can, even the word phonics is PH, but we say F, you know.
Yes. Yeah, that's
But,
one of the secret codes.
But that's because our language is amalgamation of Latin and other different languages, you know, so that's why it's that
I know
way.
they always say English is the hardest language to learn. I'm like, well, I learned it.
Yeah, well, try to learn Mandarin, or try to write it. Never mind learn it, but try to write it, you know.
Yeah, we were talking about Mandarin in the last show.
Yeah.
But this half hour went by so fast.
Fast as 30
I had all
minutes
these
in show
this
business.
wonderful introduction, and I think we just went off on a tangent and just ended up chatting like we usually do. But
Well, anyway, we have half a minute left. Our camp is coming up this year from July 12th to the 17th at the Singing Hills Christian Camp and Conference Center in Plainfield, New Hampshire. And to learn more, visit our website, campconstitution.net. We also have a ladies' retreat coming up the first weekend in May in Alton at the Alton Bay Christian Conference Center. So all the information on the website.
well, thank you, Hal. It's always
Thank
a
you for
pleasure to
having
see
me.
you.
Oh, absolutely.
And stick around. You can co-host with me in the next show if you like.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.